for joining us today. Welcome to our local District Central Tech Talks and more. Buenas tardes, bienvenidos a nuestro foro de charlas tecnológicas y más. Thank you, gracias por estar aquí. So glad you could join us today. Muchísimas gracias por estar aquí hoy día. We're going to
Thank
get
you for
started
being here today.
just a moment. I want to welcome you.
A place for coats. Will keep you warm, looking great, and save you a ton of money. Now more than ever, finding ways to save.
All right. Welcome to our Tech Talks and More, Local District Central Tech Talks and More. My name is Megan Guerrero. I am the Local District Central Parent and Community Engagement Administrator. Bienvenidos todos a nuestras charlas tecnológicas y más. Soy Megan Guerrero, soy la administradora de involucramiento de padres aquí en el Distrito Local Central. I'm going to turn it over to our partners today who are going to present from our Kindergarten Readiness Program. Although it says Kindergarten Readiness Program, this Tech Talk is for you. If you have a child in a school, you are in the right place. Muchas gracias por estar aquí. Voy a presentar a nuestros socios que van a presentar el día de hoy, listos para el kinder, pero esta presentación no es solo para kinder. Si ustedes tienen niños, niñas en la escuela, están en el lugar correcto. Let me introduce to you now Ms. Wendy Correas, who will kick us off today. Welcome, Kindergarten Readiness Team. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. My name is Wendy Correas, and I am a psychiatric social worker, a part of the Kindergarten Readiness Team. And today we are going to have a conversation on how to prepare for our parent-teacher conferences that are coming up. So on the next slide, that is going to be facilitated not only by myself, but by my colleagues Patricia León, Sheila Richmond, and Anita Yusufian Adams. Hola, buenas tardes a todos. Me llamo Wendy Correa, soy una trabajadora social psiquiátrica, aparte del equipo de preparación de kinder. Y hoy vamos a hablar acerca de formas de que podemos asociar con profesores, con los maestros en la escuela para comenzar con las conferencias que vamos a tener este mes. Y conmigo también son mis compañeros Patricia León, Sheila Richmond, y Anita Yusufian Adams. So we do have this presentation in both English and Spanish. So we are going to be doing the majority in English, but you have the opportunity to hear this in Spanish as well. So if you're interested in hearing this in Spanish, you just have to click the globe on the bottom of the page and select Spanish. Entonces vamos a tener interpretación por esta sesión. Nomás necesita oprimir el globo abajo de la página y seleccionar español. Vamos a tener el resto de esta presentación en inglés, pero sí lo puedo ir en español. Nomás si puede oprimir el globo abajo de la pantalla y puede escoger la idioma que usted prefiera, como el español. And so for your information, this is a webinar format. This means that we don't see you, we don't hear you, your phones are off, your mic is off, and your videos are off, but we are going to be utilizing the chat box for Q&A. So feel free to drop in any questions that you have as we're moving along with the presentation. And if you can just take a moment to sign in, I know Ms. Patricia León has been dropping in the sign-in link. So you can either sign in through the link or you can use your phone to open up your camera and then hover over it. So it opens up the sign-in sheet through the QR code. We appreciate you signing in. And so today our wellness theme is Wellness Wednesday. So if you haven't had the opportunity today, think about something that we can do to focus on our wellness. Today is kind of a cozy day, right? We want to stay home in our bed. And so even today I was at a school and recess, we had to have it in the classroom. So we focused on our wellness after recess and did a couple of stretches and mindful breathing to just make sure that we're taking in that wellness even during kind of a cold, cozy day. So just take a moment to think about ways that you're going to be able to take care of your wellness. Maybe it's drinking a little bit more water, maybe some tea at the end of the night, or maybe a couple of stretches. Okay, so for our inclusion, I want you to just take a moment and think about when you were in school. And how did you feel when your teacher and your parent or your caregiver met for the first time? And what were those feelings that were coming about? Maybe you were really excited to show your parents or your caregivers all the work that you'd been doing. Maybe you were a little bit nervous because you weren't sure what the conversation was going to be about. Maybe you were even a little scared. So as you take that time to think about it, we kind of forget because that happened a long time ago for some of us. And so we want to make sure that we take a moment to see and think about that perspective of our child as well. When we think about partnering with teachers, a lot of the times that conversation we hear is between caregiver, parent, or the teacher. But really, the partnering is also with our child. So we need to really think about our child that we have at home. Maybe it is a kindergartner. Maybe we have a kindergartner and a third grader. Or maybe we have a sixth grader and a junior. Regardless of where your child or your children are in school, they need to be partnering not only with us as their parents or caregivers, but also with their teachers. And so we want to keep in mind how they might be feeling at this moment and how we can bring them together. So that's what we're going to do today. So on the next slide, we're going to review kind of a few of our objectives for today. So the goal is that we want to walk away with an understanding of ways to communicate and connect with our child's teacher and begin to build that partnership and the importance of it. And we're also going to discuss some strategies that we're going to utilize before, during, and after parent-teacher conferences to better help our children succeed in school. So we've talked about this before, the strategic plan by the LAUSD and the pillars that we're going to focus on. And so for today's session, we're really going to focus on engagement and collaboration, which is part of that parental engagement piece, and academic excellence, as well as bringing that joy and wellness into learning. So we're going to take that time to really make sure that we are focusing on these different areas of the pillars. And part of our program, as Ms. Guerrero said earlier, yes, we are definitely the kindergarten readiness program, and our focus might be for the younger students. However, so many of the skills that we learn early on in schools and in our school and in our grade are different tools and strategies that we use throughout up until our seniors in high school. And this is a great example of that. And so we know with our work, we focus on these 5 developmental domains: physical health and well-being, social competence and emotional maturity, language, early literacy and numeracy, and communication skills and general knowledge. So today our focus is going to be a lot more on those communication skills and general knowledge that we're going to be able to model and show our children, and something that we can model and show and partner with our students all the way up until their senior year of high school. So I'm going to pass this to Sheila, who's going to have that conversation with us around communicating and connecting to build that partnership with teachers.
Thanks, Wendy. All right, yeah, let's get cracking. Let's think about this. Children are at school for 6+ hours a day, 5 days a week, which adds up to a minimum of 30 hours per week. So knowing who to talk to at school and how to access information makes you feel a part of your child's experience at school. Staying connected with your child's school helps you to feel involved directly with their education. And also your participation and your involvement at their school communicates to your child that school is important. And children really enjoy when their parents are involved in a positive way. Okay. So why is it important? Studies link positive parent-teacher relationships to academic achievement, to student motivation, to positive behavioral outcomes, improved attitude, and even social competence, which meaning their interactions with peers, with teachers, and with other adults. Parental involvement, not only it enhances academic performance, but it also has a positive influence on students' attitude and their behavior. So a parent's interest and encouragement in your child's education, it can really affect the child's attitude towards school. It can affect how they behave in the classroom, their self-esteem, even their attendance and their motivation. When a child feels safe and cared for both at home and at school, that really helps to promote classroom success at any age. So involvement. I want you to think about what grade your student or students are in, because this is important the whole K through 12, the whole time. Our children have relationships with many individuals at school, right? Not just their classroom teacher, but also the principal, office staff, supervision aides. And getting to know each of these individuals allows you to get information that you may need and communicates to your child that you care about their school experience. When parents or caregivers show their children that they're interested in what's happening at their school, in their classroom, it really expresses something to them. It expresses the importance of school, and this can look differently dependent on, your child's age and what kind of level of time we have as parents. It can be, volunteering in the classroom, but if that's allowed, but it could also be assisting on a planning committee or creating or cutting out a craft activity. So yeah, so just flexibility in that. And then in terms of children being our mirror, partnering with your child's teacher also helps to model positive social behaviors and collaboration. All of this communicates the importance of their time at school and education overall. So because we're modeling for our children, they're watching us and how we interact. We as adults, we know the importance of being on time or being respectful and advocating when we need to, but we're showing them directly by our behavior with the school staff. Let's see, next slide. Thank you. So as early as possible in the school year, and it's certainly not too late, we're still in the beginning here, take some time to introduce yourself if you haven't, to not only their child's classroom teacher, but to the school support staff as well. You could ask your child's teacher what their preferred method of communication is based on both of your needs. Do they prefer a written note or email? And also it's nice to be mindful of their time as well. They have personal and family obligations as well. And then schedule permitting, allow your child, accompany your child, I should say, to maybe to the line in the morning if you can, as appropriate, based on the school's policies, their age and their individual temperaments, or pick them up at the end of the day. And lastly, visit your child's school website. There's a lot of information on those websites, and they update them, and ask this classroom teacher if they have a website for the classroom as well. And at this point, I'm going to pass it on over to my colleague, Patty. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. So now we're going to talk about strategies before, during, and after conferences. So what are those things that you can do to better prepare yourself? So we'll provide a checklist for you of questions you can ask the teacher to better be prepared in the chat box. And Wendy just dropped it in the chat box. It is in English and Spanish. These are questions that we want you to think about when you're preparing for the conference for your teachers. And this is a good template for you to have, and you can use it how you see fit to be able to provide those important questions that many times we forget to ask the teachers when we're at the conference. So I want you to think about how you need to prepare before the conference. So what I'd like you to do right now is think about how can you prepare for the conference? And I'd like if you could either put it, I believe in the Q&A or the chat. I think we have access to both. So let's do the chat box. How do you think you can best prepare? So I'm looking, timing, intent of, okay, let's see. So the first thing Miss Rocio said is to speak to my child, to speak to my child. Yes. How else do you think we should prepare? So ask your child if there's anything that he or she would like to discuss with the teacher and share with your child. Let them know that you're going to be meeting with your child to let them know how they can. So if we can go ahead, Anita, and click. I'm also seeing reviewing the progress report. And I'm reading the chat. Know how the teacher feels and also take questions in mind. Definitely. So we look at checking in with your child, identifying the topics you'd like to talk about, and also share your expertise as a parent to build that partnership with the teacher. So it's happened to me many times. I go to the doctor, and if I don't write it down, I forget. So if you plan ahead of time, you can do it on your phone now. It's not so much writing now, right? We do it on our phone. Then we can remember those things, because I know it happens to all of us where we go somewhere and we're like, oh yeah, I thought, oh no, I forgot to ask the question. So having those questions written down is definitely going to help you. So what I want you to do is to just take time to think about the questions that you might want to ask the teacher. If there's any concerns or ways that you can support at home. And thank you, parents, because I'm seeing a lot of your answers in the chat. So during parent conferences, what are some things you can do to prepare yourself? I should say the day of the conference. First is to be on time, to end the conference on time, to relax and be yourself. Always ask the most important questions first. If your child receives special support or services, such as if they're identified as an English language learner, or if they have an IEP or a 504, those are definitely things that you want to talk to the teacher about to see how you can support those goals and having your child be successful. Thank you. So if the teacher expresses concerns about the child's lack of interest in something, on this template that we gave you, you're also able to sit down and write and do this with your child together. So it's a good idea to let the teacher know what you know your child likes. So sometimes we have students in our classes and we don't know how to motivate them. So it's important to have that relationship with your child's teacher and let them know what they like. This way, the more the teachers know about the students and their interests, the more the teacher is able to support your child and see how they can do things that also interest the child. Because we all know that not everything we learn in school is fun, right? But it's needed. But I know that teachers always work hard to try to motivate and keep kids engaged so that they love their learning. So now let's think about next steps. Okay, so during the parent conference, you also want to talk about next steps. So you can ask the teacher, what can I do at home to support my child in reading, for example? And ask those important questions. Maybe they need to read more books. Maybe if they're in kindergarten, they still don't recognize all their letters. So finding ways to to support your children is going to help them. And planning it together with the teacher is going to help you. So let's talk about positive points and about areas needing improvement. So tell your child about any plans that you and the teacher discussed. Always keep an open line of communication with your child's teacher. Now, many of us, it's a lot easier now than it was 20 years ago when I started teaching to get a hold of a teacher, right? Now, a lot of us use platforms like Seesaw, Class Dojo, where we're able to text the teachers or email the teachers. And that has become very important for the way that parents communicate with their children's teacher or teachers, right? If they're in junior high or high school, they have many teachers. And so it's important to always have that open line of communication. And now I'm going to hand it over to Sheila.
Thanks, Patty. So Patty was talking with us about after the conference. So I wanted to touch a little bit on praising our children's successes. Positive praise helps children make positive choices, right? It increases their self-esteem and their sense of self-worth. It increases their motivation, and it allows them to be more open to trying new things. As parents, we may have a tendency to notice or focus on something when our children aren't doing so well, because we want to stop the negative behavior, or we want to, help them to behave appropriately or excel in an area. And it might be less likely or unlikely that we acknowledge the positive behaviors. And so kids, they want their parents' attention. We know that. You're pretty much their whole world. And kids love the positive attention, but if they're not getting enough of it, they will settle for negative attention. So keeping in mind that when you notice, or you're, for example, after the parent-teacher conference, taking a moment to positively praise your student, your child, is really, really going to have a lasting impact. And then a little bit more about praise. Let's talk about a couple types of praise here. Effort-based praise. This is about praising your child's effort rather than the actual outcome, right? This helps children to learn that their effort and their hard work can really lead to results that they want, which is part of having a growth mindset. It'll also increase their skills such as perseverance and determination. When things get, when a subject is really difficult, they'll have, that kind of foundation. And then specific praise. This is praising your child for the exact behavior that was positive, right? So really pinpointing it. It helps them to learn what the positive behavior looks like exactly and feels like exactly. It also helps to let them know what they did well, so that they can repeat it. And at that, now I'm going to pass it back over to Anita.
Thank you, Sheila. Those were a lot of really great ideas. So we have heard a lot of what we can do before parent conferences, during the parent conferences, and after the parent conferences. We've gotten ideas on how we can motivate our children at home, and then hopefully have that continue on at school. So what we'd like now is to get a commitment from you from what you've heard today. What can you commit to trying this week? Maybe even tonight when you go back home. What ideas can you talk about with your child? We've talked about everything from giving you a checklist so you can actually sit down and, kind of like our children do, they've got homework when they go home. Maybe you can even print it and show your child. I've got homework now too. I'm going to be filling this out to get ready for your parent conference, your parent teacher conference. I want to be ready when I speak to your teacher. And then you ask them the questions on the parts that affect them. Think about the strengths of your own child and see if they fit with the strengths that your teacher sees in your child. Same thing with areas of need. What supports do you think your child needs? And see if they're similar to what your teacher thinks your child needs. So all of that, we also talked about mirrors. And I think this is so important because our children look to us, like Sheila said, for what's the right thing to do in different situations. Are we usually on time? Do we tend to run a little bit late? Unfortunately, that's sometimes me. And my kids saw that growing up. My kids saw when I thought it was important to be on time. So they mirror us, they watch us, and they learn from us what's important. And also thinking about next steps. So I've kind of summarized really quick all that we just talked about during this presentation. Thinking about what we've discussed, go ahead and type in the chat. What commitments do you make, starting even today or this week, for what can go into your commitment from what you've learned during this presentation? I see there's a question. I'm putting the conference checklist in the chat.
I just put it in.
Okay, I think we both did. So the conference checklist is there. You can click on that, download that, print it, work on that. Show your child, I've got homework too. And we'll start looking for, I'm seeing some committing to a good schedule and routine for your child from Ms. Aviles. That's a big help. Committing to a routine and schedule for your child at home helps them tremendously in preparation for school because they've got the routine at school. And if you're using a routine at home, they know what to expect and it helps them be more successful in both areas.
So Anita, in Spanish, I'm seeing
Mhm.
that they will commit to reading, paying more attention to the Schoology and communication form that the teachers give to their child or their students.
That's a great idea, Ms. Villalon. This is so important because this is the main way teachers reach out to all of their parents. And that's what you want, is to know what's happening in the class. They sometimes post pictures so that you can see what your child is doing. Find out if they have their own web page or some other way of communicating that's private just for the class. This is the best way to find out things. I see more in Spanish also.
Yes, Ms. Rosales said that she would work to try to motivate her children, so
Mhm.
that they can do better in school. Alex said, commit to reviewing my daughter's homework nightly.
Wonderful. And by reviewing homework nightly, that's so important. That lets the child know that this just isn't just busy work. Parents at home care about what's getting done, just like the teacher cares at home. A lot of times kids think that parents don't care at home because we don't always have the time. But when you do make that time, they notice it and they don't always know when you're going to check. So that kind of, we call it intermittent validation, helps them. Oh, I don't know when they're going to check. So it can be at any time. I better get the homework done. So that's a great idea. And you also said something about listening to writing and questions. That is a very important thing, to let your child know that when you listen and answer their questions, that you're there for them. They then know how to be that person for someone else, whether it's their teacher at school or their classmates.
I also see, Anita, a parent mentioned in Spanish to make sure that we are praising every time that they're doing something well at school, and just making sure that we're providing them with that positive praise as motivators.
Absolutely. In fact, one of the things we often tell teachers and parents is that children need 4 positive, specific praises for every 1 correction that we give them, so that they can hear it appropriately, take it in, and be able to listen without feeling bad, like they can never get anything right. Because if all they ever hear is corrections, oh, you put your shoes in the wrong place. How many times have I told you your laundry goes in the basket, not on the floor? Don't you know how to set the table yet? It's the plates, the cups, and the forks and knives, not just some of that. If that's what they hear all the time, they start to feel like, I never get anything right. But for everything that I just said, if you have already said 4 positive things, 4 positive praise, that's going to help them tremendously be able to take in the corrections that you're giving them, so that they can make those corrections and still feel successful, because they know they've done so many other things correctly. Very important. I see someone said they also talk to your child about checking parent portal every day. Absolutely, parent. Ms. Adish, when you do that, checking the parent portal and then comment to your child, they know when the teacher says, oh, and I'll be putting this on parent portal, and you could notice it, comment on it, they feel that connection. They feel that relationship between school and home, and it makes them feel supported and feel good. I like that someone's going to commit to this checklist to review it all and help their son. Excellent support. And the parent portal has come up again. Wonderful. Lots of great ideas. Support with writing and reading. Absolutely. Read to your child every night is the #1 support for getting them to be interested in reading. And then in writing also, by connection to that.
And can I add, Anita, when we encourage our students to read, I encourage you to try not to make it an alternative to a very innately fun activity, right? You need to calm down, so go read, or you can't play with your iPad right now, so you have to go read. You're kind of comparing it to something that might be a fun activity, right? Being maybe on an electronic, and then they have to read. And without us knowing, we're kind of making reading or getting a book out seem like a chore or a punishment. So when we encourage the reading, we want it to be a fun activity, right? We want to really hype it up, like, oh my goodness, let's pick out the book that we get to read together today. Or what book would you like to read today? And do you want to share with me what you read? Or let's read together. So I just highly encourage, when we encourage our children to read, to try not to make it as a, you need to calm down, go read, or you've been on your iPad too much today, go read now, because we're already making it as though it's not an activity as fun as maybe some other activities are. We want to really harvest and hone that love of reading.
Thank you, Wendy. That's a great point to bring up. Okay, so we have your commitments. Thank you so much. Let us move on. So we're just reviewing our objectives, that we wanted to find ways for you to communicate and connect with your child's teacher to help build those partnerships. And we reviewed several strategies to use before, during, and after your parent-teacher conferences in a couple of weeks. Now in the chat, we're going to drop a link for our evaluation. I saw some questions in the chat about how do I request certain topics for these tech talks? And in the evaluation, we read ourselves, we read what you put in there and what ideas that you want to hear during these tech talks. So please click on the link that's being dropped in the chat box and go ahead and fill that out. Or you can use your phone, go ahead and take a picture of the QR code, and that'll bring up the evaluation on your phone, if that's how you prefer to do that. We're going to give you a few minutes to fill that in. Please stay with us because we will drop the sign out at the end for parents that did not have a chance yet to fill in the sign in. And we'll be able to take some questions at the end also. And I know that our wonderful PACE team has some reminders for all of us also. Parents, I can tell that you're working hard on the evaluations. I see that most of our parents are staying in the room with us, filling in your responses, giving us the feedback that we need to be able to make these presentations as interesting for you as possible. We don't want to waste your time. We want to give you the information that you want to hear. And if you've not yet had a chance to sign in, the link is now in the chat again. Please go ahead and click on that and sign in. It helps us to know which areas and how what areas our advertisements work best in. We like to know that. Also so that we can better support other areas and target them in different ways. The names of the presenters were Wendy Correas, Sheila Richman, Patricia Leon, and my name's, you can say Anita Adams is the easiest way. And someone has gone ahead and typed our first names in the chats. Thank you, Patty.
Let's go to the next slide.
Okay. So just as a reminder, our next Tech Talk is happening on December 14th with the kindergarten readiness. Now, you know that this is a weekly parent workshop and training, but the next time kindergarten readiness will be presenting is on December 14th. And we're going to be talking about from trauma to hope and cope. Given that we're still in the pandemic, coming out of the COVID lockdowns, A lot of people in this last year and a half, almost 2 years now, have been feeling the trauma from being locked down, from all the different experiences, from job loss, home losses, family losses. So we want to, and with the holidays coming up, it sometimes re-triggers people about, oh my gosh, so much has happened. So we want to bring you from that trauma to how to hope and cope with it. This is our kindergarten readiness team. We're very happy to work with all the many elementary schools that we work with in Central. And this is the team that supports the schools and your teachers in the classrooms across Central. Now, any questions? Please type them in chat. We'll answer them as best we can. We look forward to hearing from what we've just talked about, what we can share with you.
I think we answered most of the questions, Anita. I mean,
Okay.
it's a very nicely interactive presentation. Thank you so much.
Well, then let me go ahead and turn this over to our PACE team.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. So on behalf of the PACE team, we want to thank everyone, our panelists, our presenters, did an awesome job sharing with us important information, and our parents were so great at giving all the advice about what they do, how they support their child in this exercise of when we have parent and teacher conferences. So all the advice the parents gave was on point. Thank you so much for participating. And now we just want to give you a few items to think about, right? How to engage and other opportunities that we have set up for you. And the one that is here now that we want you to really engage in, right, is the school experience survey. I believe last Monday we had a presentation on the school experience survey, and now we are reiterating that it is happening. The window is from October 24th, and it's coming, the deadline, December 9th. So we would want you parents to please take the time to support your school by completing the school experience survey. So I am sure your schools have sent you information and links and reminders. And so are we here also reminding you that it is very important. Yeah, ya lo llenó. Thank you, Señora Angelica. She has already completed it. Thank you so much. I know that our parents here are on top of things. Thank you so much. So we are going to the next slide, Anita. And as always, right, we were here Wednesdays at 3:30, most Wednesdays here at 3:30 with you presenting, bringing you important information, such as today's presentation from the Kinder Readiness group. And next week we have on Wednesday in English, the November 9th, we have the Let's Talk About Money. That's we'll be presented in Spanish, and we'll have simultaneous interpretation in English. So this comes to us from Mr. Juan Manuel Lopez. He was part of the Mexican consulate, now supporting us. He will come and talk to us about how to deal with our management, right? How we manage with our personal finances. So we hope you can join us next Wednesday. And on Monday, for Spanish speaking audience in particular, we will have on Monday the 7th, a presentation about improving our understanding and how to support better our councils and committees. And so we will bring you a presentation on what to do, what not to do, how to, right? The how-tos when you are participating in a council or a committee at your school site, that is ELAC or school site council. And of course, we would want you to also join us on Wednesday, the 9th at 3:30, when we'll have the presentation about Let's talk about money. Mejor hablemos de dinero. So that will be next week. And of course, Family Academy happening most Mondays and Wednesdays from 5:30 to 7:30. And as you can see here, next week, 11/7, we have, there is a presentation about English learners specifically. And then on the 9th, next week in the afternoon, remember this happens at 5:30. It's brought to you by the Parent and Community Services Office. They will have a presentation for SSE and ELAC as they work with the school plan. So understanding school plans, that'll be the presentation in Family Academy next week, 11/9 at 5:30. So after you log off from Tech Talks, take a little break and then join Family Academy as we are together presenting on Wednesdays. So next slide. And Cyrene, if you can, would you like to invite our families for the LCAP study group? Are you there?
Absolutely. Yes, I would. So yes, everyone is invited to our local control and accountability plan study group. We are on session 4 right now. And for this session, we'll be discussing 100% graduation, proficiency for all, and English learner supports. And so when you come to the meeting, you'll find out a little bit more about the LCAP. And then you'll find out how our district uses the funds that we receive to support students, all of our students. And we also have specific populations of students that some of these funds go to as well. So we want to make sure that you understand how that system works, and also to be able to have an opportunity to provide feedback. So once you learn about the district's plans and the district's goals and actions, then you'll have an opportunity to kind of think about that, discuss with other families, other parents, and talk about how these goals are, how you see these goals being met at your school. And you'll get a chance to also talk about some ways that you might like to see things improve, or how things might be a little different. So after you have that conversation, then we ask you to provide your feedback through a platform called Thought Exchange. You might be familiar with it. And if you're not, that's fine. We'll definitely you'll have the opportunity to figure out how to use the Thought Exchange to share your opinions and your ideas with not just with us at the study group, but also with district personnel, and eventually we have leaders from our local district, our parent advisory committee. They also take a look at that feedback, and then they make suggestions to our district regarding each one of those goals. So anyway, once again, we want to invite you next week, Wednesday, November 9th, from 9:30 to 11:30. And please join us. When you click the link there, you'll be sent to a registration form. You'll register there, and then you'll be sent a link to join the meeting. So it'd be a good idea to register right now. I'll put the link in the chat, and you'll have an opportunity to join us next week. So there we go.
Thank you, Cyrene.
Absolutely.
So yes, and continuing with our announcements, right? Don't forget, parents and families, that the window is still open if you want to apply through the Choices programs, to the programs in Choices, Unified Enrollment. The timeline will close in November 18th. So you're still in time. Should you want to look at the LAUSD Unified Enrollment website and see the different programs that our district offers, you are welcome to see that information. And then again, should you be interested in applying, the window is still open. It'll close November 18th. Next slide. All right. I do believe we are kind of ahead of time as today, so that is great. So let me just answer one question that I see here, and it's about where you can find our recordings, right? So as you can see, we are recording today, and all our recordings are placed in the Local District Central YouTube channel. So when you go to the Local District Central YouTube channel, you will find all of our recordings, the recordings of our presentations, the ones we do on Wednesdays, and sometimes the ones we do on Mondays, and all the different presentations that we have. We want you to be able to access that information. So yes, please, Local District Central YouTube channel. That's where you can find these presentations.
I'll put it in the chat in just a minute.
Awesome. So
Mhm.
Miss Irene will put the link in the chat so you can see that information. Okay. So we have time. If there are any other questions that we should answer, team, that you think we can go over, that is fine.
There was just one that I thought was a good point because it always comes up for the school experience survey. Is it one survey per child or is it one survey per school?
Yes, I saw that question.
Always a good one.
And it is, right? So, and also, I think we also have the presentation, right, that we will upload to YouTube channel, because that was the topic of our Monday presentation. And yes, for families that have a child or various children in different schools. For example, if you have 2 children in the same school, you only complete one survey. Again, if you have 2 children in the same school, you only complete one survey. But if you have children in different schools, LAUSD schools, then you would complete a survey per school, right? So if you have a child in elementary, well, you complete one survey for that school. If you have a child in middle school also, then you complete a survey for that school also, for that school. And similarly, if you also have a child in high school, then you would complete a survey for that school. So it's about your experience with each of the schools, right, where your children attend. That is the answer to that question. Might there be other questions that we could address, given that we have a little bit of time?
I think we shared the, yes, Miss Irene shared where folks can find our YouTube recordings. And I wanted to comment on one of the questions and I think you answered it very well, Ms. Monson, in the Q&A about, what if all we hear at our parent conference is, "Van bien," or, everything's fine, everything's great, they're doing great. And you have so much power as a parent to ask for more specifics, right? What are those comments based on? What are they seeing? What is the teacher seeing that's making them say things are going well? Ask for data, right? Ask to see results of different ways that students are being measured in the classroom so that you can understand exactly what does that mean, doing well? Doing well compared to others, doing well compared to a measurement on an exam, doing well in terms of all 4th graders in the state of California. And so parents, we just encourage you, following today's presentation to ask questions, ask for specifics, ask to see samples of your child's work, and teachers will be prepared to bring that information to you so that you can be better informed. So thank you for that. Thank you for going that one step further and understanding, helping the teacher understand that you want specifics, that you as parents want to know how they're doing, how you can help, and what's going well. So I wanted to comment on that, and also thank our kindergarten readiness team again.
Okay,
Not sure
yes.
if there's any other questions?
I believe that might be all the questions that we have. But definitely, right, it is important during parent conference sessions, which happen at all of our schools, that you ask the questions, right, that you feel are important to ask. Someone said, checking with your child, but also checking with the teacher, right? What are the teacher's expectations? Talk to the teacher, and not just at this time. Remember, this is just one point in time, but you're welcome to, at any time, that you feel you want to have that conversation with the teacher, please call the school, make an arrangement, or better yet, parent portal. Send an email to the teacher through parent portal, right? That's one way so that you can have that constant communication with the teachers, and that is through your parent portal account. So I urge you, right, to get that parent portal account going if you haven't, or maybe you have one but haven't used it lately. So I encourage you to use it, right? Because that's one way for us to keep the lines of communication open with our school staff, with the teachers in particular. So again, that's something that we encourage you to do.
Yeah, and I
although
was gonna add too, if your child is an English learner,
Mhm.
or if your child is a student that has an IEP, you can ask specific questions about their IEP, about their goals and how they're doing. So you don't have to wait until your IEP meeting to ask how the teacher's helping them meet their goals. Apart from their report card, if your child's an English learner, ask, where are they on the path to reclassification, right? How are they doing in reading, writing, listening, speaking, to be able to develop their skills in English to reclassify. So just another point, you don't have to wait for a specific kind of meeting. And if you need more time, like the time slot that you have isn't enough, ask the teacher for a follow-up opportunity, right? I know teachers also have things that they have to get home to, but maybe there's someone that comes in early, or maybe you can schedule a phone call. So parents, we just want to encourage you to don't be limited by the opportunity. I know that we want to be respectful of our teachers' times, but also your child is number one for you to get all the information, and the teacher will respect that you are trying to get the most information possible to be able to support what's going on in the classroom.
Can I actually add on something as well?
Sure, Mr. Campbell. We have a minute. Yes. 3 minutes.
Yes. Yeah, I just want to let parents know that when it comes to generating questions that you have prior to the meeting, the parent portal is a wonderful way to access information to generate those questions. Like, for example, the grades and assignment section within parent portal. It gives detailed information on certain assignments, and you can ask questions based on that. And so you get a better idea of specifics when it comes to the activity that your child might be having a lot of success in, or they might have challenges in, and you can generate questions based on that.
Mhm.
Great idea. Thanks for sharing that. We are getting ready to wrap up our session today. We want to thank everyone for sticking with us. I hope that you had a chance to fill out the feedback form to give both ourselves and the kindergarten readiness team some more information about what sessions you'd like to see in the future. We tried to time today's session to address how we can be ready for parent-teacher conferences. And there may be other things that you would like to also hear as well. Thank you again, everyone, for being here. We hope that you have a wonderful afternoon. Stay safe and have a great rest of the day.